Hey guys, Jessica Henry here. Oops, sorry. Here I am. Jessica Henry here. I have my camera all kind of wonky today because I'm going to angle it down onto my drawing board. So that's why I'm a little bit looking up at you guys. Just wanted to say hello and welcome today. I have kind of something fun. I'm going to be doing drawing. I have a master copy drawing that I'm going to be doing a Rubens self-portrait. All right. So this... I'll show you real quick. Actually, I'm going to take a few moments here first before we get into this to talk about art materials. I'll show you real quick. Oops, owie. So this is the drawing that I'm going to be working on today. Okay, so I just shared it on Facebook this morning, so you can kind of see that. But good to see you guys. This is going to be kind of a fun lesson. I'm going to take my time and do a little bit longer lesson. I'm not going to do the whole drawing in completion, but you'll get the foundations. So that's pretty important. So wanted to thank you guys for joining. Good morning, Danny. Good to see you. So anyway, happy to be here with you guys. All right, so materials here. I want to tell you what I have here, so if you guys are following along, you can get set up or eventually buy these things. And also I wanted to mention that we are about ready to launch the Online Art Academy. And what I'm going to show you here today is it's part of what I'm going to be starting with the Online Art Academy. So it's going to be similar to this. I'm going to start back with something much, much simpler when we do the Academy, and then we'll eventually move into this. But today I'm kind of giving you a sample because we're also just about to launch a special on our portrait video. We just launched about a month ago the Painting the Portrait oil painting, and so we're going to feature a special, and so stay tuned for that. In the next couple days you'll see a special on that, maybe even today. But anyway, so stay tuned. What I'm showing you here today in the process of drawing this portrait is exactly the same as how I do things in painting the portrait too. So this is all fun stuff. All right, so what I have here, of course I have my picture. You can't see it right now, but I will show you. I'll angle the camera down when I begin the video. I have right here is a masonite board. It's just a 1/4 inch masonite, and then I've used artist tape, and I've taped down. I cut it. I like when I'm working on something and I really want to get my brain in that so almost a left brain analytical mode. I'll pay attention to proper draftsmanship, and I'll cut the tape and I'll line everything up nice and neat and square. Just classical training that I have. So what I'm going to be working on today for paper, I have Canson MiTients paper. I know it's backwards for you guys. It is pastel paper. It's appropriate for pastels, but you can use it for drawing. The reason that I like this is because you have two sides to the paper, and I'll show you that here. This pad of paper has different colors you can work from, and I have chosen today the color by Canson called Pearl, and I like it because it's sort of just a warm gray. Now, these papers that you get in this pad, on one side, I'll show you here, maybe you can kind of see it. On one side, see, the paper is really rough. On the other side, it's really smooth. And I prefer to work with a little bit finer detail and a really sharp pencil, so I like the smooth side. So I flipped over my paper. For pastelists, they like the rougher side. That's why it's pastel paper. But for me, I like that. So I have it taped down, nice and straight and square with my reference here. I'll angle it down. I may not be able to see your comments, but I'll get them at the end. Hi, Laura. Good to see you. So I won't be able to, I'll kind of try to look up and see if I can see what you guys are saying, but it might be a little bit difficult. All right, so down here now, I have my pencils today I'm going to be using. I'll show you what I have here for my collection. My drawing here, this book is from the 1800s. And these are drawings by Peter Paul Rubens. This is a self-portrait that I'm working on today. I have taken a plastic sleeve and I slit the top and the side, and I have it over the page like kind of like a dust jacket, so that I don't get my oily fingerprints and whatever on it. The book has been kind of abused over the years. I found it at an antique shop, so I really want to baby it because it's very special to me. It's all in German. Anyway, so I have this cover on it, and I have a grease pencil here in case I need to make marks, which I will, on here to just help with straight lines and plumb lines and so on. And then you'll see that I have sharpened my pencils to a funny point. I will talk about that here in a minute. I am going to be starting out the drawing today with a 4H. Okay, 4H just means it's harder than your regular average school pencil. These are an HB or 2B, whatever. It says HB on some of these pencils, if you can kind of see that. I sharpened this one this way too. I like to do them this way because it gives me a little bit more delicate pressure. I am forced to not press hard with my pencil. So I'll show you, I'm going to just take, actually I have my scratch paper here today. I grabbed just a piece of just copier paper. So your HB pencil makes a line that dark. It's, you know, neither light nor dark. It's just right there. The 4H pencil, pressing normal, gives me a line that's lighter than that because the lead itself, or the graphite, is the recipe that they use to do this is very hard. Obviously, you can get, if you get a 9H pencil, it's even harder still. So you just write normal and it's a very light line. So I'm also going to use a 3B. B, I always tell my students, B, think of butter, it's softer. This graphite here is very soft. So when I draw a line pressing normal, it's very dark. Okay? So the higher the number, the softer the lead. So I have a 9B pencil, it's almost like dark like charcoal. Okay, so those are the two I'm going to be using, 4H and 3B. The grease pencil is for drawing on the plastic sleeve here. And then I also have a white. Because my paper is tinted, I'm only going to use a little tiny bit of this just to pull out like the ridge of his nose, a little highlight in the eye, but I'm not going to overuse it, just a little bit. For erasers, I have my kneaded eraser because I don't like to rip up the surface of the paper with, you know, something rough like a pink pearl, or if you're using one of these school pencils, these it's basically a pink pearl eraser, and they really are abrasive on the surface. So I try to avoid those. You can also use a soft, just plastic eraser. These are fine too. I also have, okay, I'll only talk about sharpening my pencils. When I sharpen these, I use this little pen knife. You can pick up these. It's just a little X-Acto blade. It's even smaller than a regular X-Acto. But they're very, very sharp, and I like it because I have a lot of control. And I will shave the wood back from the lead and give me about an inch or two of lead on here. Now you can sharpen these by using the little can. You can see these canisters at other art supply stores. And you just go around and around and around and around, and it collects the dust in here. But what I don't care for about these is that they only sharpen the point. What I like to use is a sanding block. So if you shave your pencils back like that, hold your pencil flat like this, and typically you do this over a garbage can, but since the camera's right here, I'm going to show you here. Now, as I go back and forth, I'm turning the pencil in my fingers like this so that I get the lead sharpened all the way around, and I can sharpen my point way back. Okay, so I'm doing this, and I'm turning as I go. This sanding block has obviously seen better days. It's kind of difficult for me to find a good spot where the sandpaper is happy. But you can see by doing that, then I get a much longer needle point. All of this just helps encourage lighter pressure and a more delicate handling. Okay, you want to be able to make lines on your paper that you can completely erase. And also, you don't want to damage the surface of your paper by pressing too hard. You can see on some papers where the artist just pressed harder and the pencil leaves a shininess on the page. You don't want that shininess. Okay, so this is my 4H, or yeah, 4H pencil, and I sharpened that a little bit more. You can see that. Okay, and I've already done that to my white here, so this is ready to go. All right, and so you just bang that off in the garbage can, and this one's done. And these, eventually I'm going to be marketing these through the Renaissance Academy, and so these are really cheap. I just have some other pencil sharpeners. Obviously you can use a regular sharpener and just sharpen your pencils to a normal point as such. But what I don't care for about this is that you're going to go back and sharpen it. For me, I would be sharpening about every 5 minutes because I like a very sharp point when I'm doing drawings. There's just a few random occasions where you want a duller point for some of these shadings in here, and I'll get to that. This little guy does the same thing that this does. It's just smaller, and it fits into my little watercolor satchel thing. So I keep that in hand. I'll put all those over there since I'm done with that. I also have a T-square here because I'm going to be drawing some helper lines this way, and I want to be able to get them obviously straight and square. I like a T-square because I can lock it on the edge of my masonite board and just slide it up and down as such. All right, and I'm not going to be using my pen and inks today, so those are just kind of off to the side. And I got my coffee. We're all set. When I'm done drawing for a session, I have my sheet of tissue paper, and I always lay that over the top. If you have pets or cats or whatever, anything can happen. It's nice to have it even just slightly protected. All right, and then scratch paper, and I'll show you how I use that too. All right, so let's get going. So if you're just joining me, I'm going to be doing this master copy today. I'm not going to do it on the picture that I shared on Facebook today. That one took hours, and I said 1997. It was actually 1994 when I did that. I was at the atelier school. I had just graduated high school, and I got my classical training. So I did these master drawings just to help me further my own studies, and they're very beneficial. Don't ever feel like you can't copy the masters, because a piano player learns by playing Mozart. They don't just start composing their own songs right from the beginning. So I have no problem doing master copies. We learn by standing on the shoulders of giants, to use an overused phrase. All right, so let's get going. I am going to establish what I call just the horizon, or the eye line. I'm going to start with a straight line because these eyes are not in line with each other. One is higher, obviously, than the other. So I want to get that just so. I'm going to start with, this is what I call truth here. This is it. Oh, is it? Sorry, Daniel. Yeah, there is. I can't close the window without that. I'm hoping that the focus, I'm going to just focus on his face today, not so much on the top part here. So we'll see. All right, so laying my T-square here right on the edge of the paper of the book, taking my grease pencil, I'm going to get this. My plastic sleeve is creating not a straight edge. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one of those eyes in half. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? Just draw a line straight across. Okay? Coming over here, going to give myself the same line. Get your T-square lined right up on the edge. If you join us in our online art academy, all of these supply lists will be provided, as well as downloadable images that you can go straight from. I'm going to be providing worksheets and all kinds of things like that. All right, so this line matches this line. Now I'm going to go, and that's where I'm going to start, just with the eyes. When I teach on the Online Art Academy, like I said, I'm going to be starting with this image much, much simpler, but I always start from the eyes, and I work my way down, then to the nose, then to the mouth. This is exactly the way I do it in painting a portrait, whether it's from life or from a photo. Painting, drawing, it's all the same. So let's jump in with this eye. You can pick any eye, but I'm going to pick this one, if you can kind of see it. Sometimes you can use calipers to help you measure. You can use your pencil to measure with your finger like this. You can see that. I'm sliding my finger along the lead of this. Be careful if you do shave your pencils back. They're really fragile. They want to break. Lots of fun. All right, so let's get that eye in place. I see that the top of his eye here is right in line with the line. I'm going to see if I can get this a little bit closer and try to avoid some of that. Okay, that maybe is a little better. Okay. All right, so let's get that eye in. I'm going to measure how wide it is with this pencil. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use this. This is why I have the scratch paper. We're going to take the eye. I'm going to make a mark. Here's a mark for the beginning of the eye and a mark for the farthest part of the eyeball. All right, there's my marks. I don't know if you can really see them on there. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. Okay, so here is my eye over here. This method here is called sight size. I am making my image here exactly the same size as I see it here. All right, so there's my marks. I know you cannot see that because they're tiny. I don't want to make them too big either on my drawing, because then people would be able to see them, right? We want to make it look effortless. Okay, so there's that one eye. Let's figure out how far down from the line it goes. I'm going to use that same mark that I have on my paper. And there's where his eyeball is. Okay, if you can see that a little bit. Coming over here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just draw the parameters of where that eye fits inside this, the marks that I've given myself. So using the 4H pencil, you know what? For the sake of this video, I'm going to switch to a little bit my darker one so that you can see my lines. Otherwise, I think that you won't be able to see them. So going down like this, the eyeball turns. And, okay, good, you can see. And then it comes around. Now the bottom of his eyelid here, you don't really see it at all. So I'm just going to suggest where that goes. Because I don't want it to be very, very drawn. Really, there aren't any lines in nature. What we see are just the contours, and we want to just try to capture value against value to make those stories come alive. All right, now I'm going to get in the iris. And I'm going to use just my eyeball to calculate the distance from this, where this curve starts, and the curve of his eye over here. And of course, irises are perfectly round if you're looking straight on. And this eye is turned right at us. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and put in the pupil at this moment too. So there's that. All right, while I'm at it, I'm going to put in the top eyelid here where I see this, his lash line, and then the crease comes up a little and then over. And it stops right about there. One thing I like to I say a lot, is if you can write your name, you can draw. And some of these steps here that I'm showing you are no different than what you learned when you were learning to write letters. And so it seems so simple and basic when I say, well, just measure this and we'll just go down. And but that is what we learned when we were writing letters. Do the tops and bottoms of the iris ever get covered by the eyelids? Sometimes they do, depending on how far down the top lash line is. And that can also show mood, too. So those are things to take into effect when you're doing portraitures. You know, what sort of message is being conveyed by the viewer. And you can sort of analyze psychology and so forth. And this eye over here, part of the pupil and iris do seem to be cut off by that lid. All right, so this is in place adequately enough for me to move on then to the other eye. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scratch paper here again, and going right on my line that I drew here across, I'm going to mark the beginning of this eye because I already have that here. Then I'm going to figure out, just pulling my paper up, where the other eye starts. There's that mark. Okay, so there's where it is on that line. So that's the distance between his eyes right there. So there's where that eye starts, right here. And then I'm going to draw this up because remember I have my helper line here, and the other eye starts there. Okay. Now this eye is drawn very, very lightly, so we don't see very many lines. And what I don't want to do is just start drawing sharp, strong lines around it. But I do want to suggest where it's going to go. So let's figure out how wide that eye is. Typically, our eyes have about an eye's width in between the eyes. So let's see if that's true. There's where his eye begins, and there's where it ends. So I can use these same marks for in between his eyes for this eye. There's where that one starts, and here's where it ends. Next question, there's a teeny little mark there. You can't see it, but it's there. Next question is, how high is this corner of his eye to my line here? And you can measure it or you can eyeball it. I'm going to say it's about that high. And I'm looking then at the negative space created from his lower lid to my horizontal line. What sort of triangle is that? if you are interested in getting further drawing lessons, leave your email and we'll keep you notified when the online academy is up and ready. I think we're going to be able to start taking enrollment next week. So that's very exciting. And I'm going to start with art lessons, much more basic than this, but we will be moving into master copy drawings and things of this nature, because it's so foundational. Having a firm grasp on training your eye to see accurately. Okay, so let's get this other eyelid and eyelash, what is this? Eye crease. My right brain's kicking in and I'm forgetting how to speak. So we don't see the crease line going all the way across, but I see it over here too, so let's get that in. All right, so there we are. Get his pupil in over here. I think that works. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. They have to match or it'll look weird. Okay, and then I'm being careful to leave the little white spot. I can always come back through too with my white little pencil and go like that, right on the highlight there. You can also take your kneaded eraser and go into a little sharp point. I like to do a stubby point so it's not too wibbly wobbly, and erase some of that. All right. So double checking that, sorry if my head's in the way, I'm just checking here real quick to see if that all makes sense. Okay. All right, so the eyes are in place. I'm gonna move, let's get the eye sockets. So that basically entails the eyebrows. Eyebrows always follow the top line of the eye socket. So in this case here, I'm looking where it's basically the bridge of the nose, where it comes away from the eye and comes up. And it's very close, right there. And then the other side of the bridge of the nose comes about like that. Now I'm gonna just take my 4H pencil here for a moment and just draw the shape of the eyebrow socket. I know you won't be able to see it very well, but I'll come back through with my B pencil and to further enhance it a little bit. Okay, and then this one comes up following that eyeball socket. I actually thought I would do a skull today. I thought it'd be kind of interesting, but maybe I'll save that for the Online Art Academy. We'll draw a skull. It's very, very crucial to know the bones and the way that the skull turns and so forth. Faces were saying, oh, great. Okay, thanks, Joanne. Yeah, practice drawing faces all the time. It never, even if you're doing master copies or you see someone at a bus stop, whatever, just do it. It's just, when I was a kid, sitting in church, I would draw people's ears from the backs. You know, it's always a lesson in observation. I probably should have been paying more attention, but, you know, as a kid. So, we didn't have phones back then either, so. So here, I'm just suggesting the lower part of his eye socket down in here, as well as on this side. And with your 4H pencil, you can make these big decisions of where things are going to go and no one sees them. So this is just, I'm just calculating where my cross hatchings are going to go. All right, so taking my 3B pencil, coming back through here. Now, this drawing, if you can see the original drawing here up close, there's beautiful, gorgeous cross hatchings and subtle little turns with the way he did the little cross hatchings along the bridge and sculpting out the tip of the nose. So I'm going to do some of those. I know you won't be able to see it, but you can zoom in on the picture that I already shared on Facebook and see if you can kind of see some of those. They're just gorgeous to study the way that these masters handled their line work. And just take your time. It looks like it was done quickly, but you don't have to do it quickly. Each line, just be sensitive to, and it'll show. Right here where the bone is turning from the eye socket, I see little teeny tiny lines going that way. I'm also going to erase this horizontal line. And they thought you were taking notes on this sermon. Oh yes, I know. They really, well, maybe my parents knew better. I don't know. I'm erasing this, not entirely, because I want to leave some of this over here to help with getting the rest of the face in. And then this, I'm looking at this eye socket here where I see it's darker. And the lines come up. Just going to suggest some of that form. I am going to use a little bit of that. I just can't use that B pencil when I see that these marks are so delicate. That's such a heavy, soft lead that I just don't have the heart to obliterate these beautiful cross-hatching lines with the heavy dark pencil. Coming in over here too, same thing. Under his eye. In classical drawing, they always use a 45-degree angle shading. If you're left-handed, it'll be backwards. And I know that on these Facebook videos, it's always reversed. So this is going to look right-handed. But I'm right-handed, so it's 45-degree angle. So when you're doing your shading, don't do M's. Don't do that because it leaves a deposit of darker lead at the end. Just individual lines at 45-degree angles. And then as you work around your cross-hatching, you can continue, obviously not at 45 anymore, but keeping them clean and uniform. And take your time. So that's a close-up of some of the things that we're going to be doing. Just wondering what type and weight of paper. Oh, the weight? I'll go into that here real quick if you're just joining. This is Canson MiTients. It's for pastels, but I use the other side of the pastel paper because it's smoother. The pastelists like a rougher texture, but these papers are just delightful in that you can use the other side, which is smooth. And I like this pad of paper because there's different colors. All of these make beautiful drawings, even the blue, whatever. And the pound is 98 pounds. You can just buy these at, I think I got this at Blick Art Store. Okay, back to this. Okay, so I'm getting to the place where I'm pretty content with, I feel like Rubens is peeking out at the paper now. Let me just kind of contour around some of these where I see them on here, but I want to make sure I get them. And then down under his eye. And there isn't, oh, you're welcome. Great advice on shading. Thank you, guys. I'm leaving the light of the paper, what's supposed to be highlighted. And I have to erase. I've got my helper line in here still, so. There's so many tools that an artist can use when drawing. I have 6 that I teach people. I'm going to go over all of those in the academy, you know, plumb lines, helper lines, and so forth. But right here today, mostly we're just using helper lines. I know it sounds kind of elementary, but the truth is I taught children for about 14 years. So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you can write your name, you can draw. And drawing is foundational to any kind of art, if you want to sculpt or whatever, anything. So get drawing down and everything else will fall into place. Trust me, trust me, trust me. Okay, so I'm content with that. All right. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to, oh, thank you, Elmira. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this today because there's so much to this picture and I do want to get going. Oh my gosh, we're already a half hour into it. Okay, so the nose. Let's figure out how far down the bottom of this nose is. So I'm going to compare it to, what are we closest to? Straight down from this ridge here, there's my helper line, and there's the bottom of his nose. Easy peasy. Here's my helper line, and then straight down is the bottom of his nose. Okay, so now there's that. I'm going to come over here and just lay my pencil. Oh, thanks, Eric. I'm going to lay my pencil right on his nose and go straight up and see where, sorry, I got to get my head in the way. Where does the nostril hit the eye if I go vertically straight? It hits it right on the corner. So coming over here, I'm going to go to the corner of the eye here and go straight down. That's where his nostril is going to go. Okay? Same thing with this nostril. Coming over, go straight up. Where does it hit that eye? Gonna get my head in the way, sorry. Come over here. And then I'm going to go down from this eye, and that's how far over the nostril is on this side. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. So here's the bottom of the nose, and I gave myself the parameters to work in to draw the shape. So I'm going to go up like this. The bridge of his nose comes down, and then it has this really neat little angle down and then out. And then it angles down this way. Okay, I'll make that a little darker so you can see it. I think it's kind of hard to see. Oh, wrong pencil. Coming in, out, in, out. Always flicking your eye back and forth from your drawing to the original. And in my mind too, I'm quickly checking where the base of the lowest part of the nose, if I draw a line straight up, where does that hit other features inside here? Goes there before it starts to angle upwards to show the nostril. Goes inside the nostril and around. And then there's this shadow shape under his nose, which is beautiful, and there's lovely cross-hatching in here. This comes up, and inside the nostril comes down. Now I cannot, in good conscience, do that delicate cross-hatching with this B pencil. That would kill me. So I'm going to go in here real quick, and there's some subtle curvature on the very tip of the ball of the nose. And then over here. So when you're doing a master copy, don't go with your own prejudices and your own desires as far as what you love to do. You know, oh, I don't love to do cross-hatching, but I'm still going to do this Rubens drawing. No, when you're doing a master copy, you do exactly what they did, regardless of your own preferences, because you're learning from them. You can always later sift through and decide what you don't want, but when you're doing a copy, just follow exactly what they did. Okay, so there's the inside of his nostril, and then the side over here has this little subtleties. Okay, and then the whatever this passage is here, I should learn that anatomical side of the nose, whatever. There's some very delicate handling in there. What I don't like is the strong nose line. I don't see that over here, so I'm going to just sort of ghost out the line, and that's just a term where you can kind of just erase it so that it's mostly invisible, And I'm going to come back through here and apply a little bit more delicate handling to define the contour of that nose rather than draw a line. And then the other nostril comes up like this and over. And then on this side of the nose, where it comes down, there's some subtle lines. And as you can see, it's just one line at a time. How do you draw? One line at a time, just like that. Okay? And you can see he's starting to peek out from the paper. He's starting to come to life. Okay, now down to the mouth. Okay? Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. So the mouth, again, I'm drawing my lines straight up. Sorry, my head's going to be in the way again. Going straight up from this farthest edge over there, I'm going to figure out if I draw a vertical line, where does it hit up here that I've already done? So it cuts the nose right in half and follows along the far ridge of the nose and comes right up into here. So I can even take just a second pencil here and make a mark. Okay, that is that mark, and it falls directly under the nose like that. Don't trust what you know. Always look and second guess, whatever. Sometimes a lot of our problems and mistakes that we make with drawing are because we are fighting with our mind. Like, I know that the mouth is supposed to be over here. So you draw it that way and then it doesn't look right. Don't go by what you know, only go by what you see. Okay? Sorry, I need coffee now. All right. Now, the other edge of this mouth, where does that fall? If I draw a line straight up, it cuts the pupil over here right in half. So coming over here, drawing my line straight down, just going to make a mark. Oops. Right in there. Okay, so back to my 4H pencil. My next problem that I need to figure out is how far down the mouth is. And I'm going to talk about where the mouth opens. Okay, just that little split there. So I need to figure out how far down from the nose that is. And I'm going to take my scratch paper again, and I'll use my darker B pencil so you can see my marks. So from the bottom of the nose to the opening of the mouth. And since this is the same size as this, I can go right over here from the bottom of the nose. There's where the mouth is going to be. Okay, so I know it's probably hard to see, but it's there, it's there. All right. So I've given myself the parameters to put his mouth in, so let's get going on that. And then this curls back under all of this wonderful mustache in here. To see if my line is wiggling. Yep, that's true. That's true. All right. Okay, so that's where his mouth is going to sit. I'm just going to double check. It helps to, and I can't really get my face in between these two because of the camera and how this is set up. So every now and then I'm moving over, but you just want to make sure that you're looking at everything straight and square while you're working. Okay? So here's the bottom lip, and the angle of that bottom lip kind of angles down. And then this is all cross-hatching lines in here. I am going to use a B for that because you can see down here it gets really dark. And you might as well keep your sharpener handy because as I've been working and throwing pencils, it's gotten a little duller. And there are some really nice, beautiful, dark sharps, dark shadows down here that I want to get these lines really, really sharp. So this is, if you're just joining, I showed you this at the beginning of the video. This is how I sharpen my crazy little pencils. And I turn and I turn and I turn while I'm doing this. So there's that. Okay. Bang that out in the garbage can. Or as Bob Ross says, beat the devil out of it. All right, so now I want to get the hair, this mustache lines. And some of these are just very defining. So, and they're dark, so I really want to get these in place. And this lip, he's got the lines coming out like this. They're just little lines. All right, and then it kind of comes down and around. And with this beard and mustache, all these lines are so carefully put in place to help define all of this marvelous structure in here. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my 4H pencil. Just thank you guys. Good to see you guys. Have a great weekend. What brand of pencils? I think I picked these up just at like a Michael's store. They just say sketching. You can use any kind. I'm not picky about brands. I've used all sorts of different brands before. And so, okay, so curling this around. Now I'm going to really start to sculpt out where this mustache is. And I'm looking at these lines and where they come out from the nose and the angles that they go in, trying to match what he has here. Because these really do define the form. And this is something that I talk about too in my painting the portrait video with the oil painting. Is the guy I painted had his wonderful beard and mustache. And even with painting, everything is about showing form. And so, it's really all we have to work with, right? Is working to define form. I'm going to erase my helper lines. Off to the side of his nose here, there's a little value here. And I'm going to try to get that in here real quick. I don't want to make it too dark, though, because oftentimes these, in portraits, I've seen them painted and drawn where they're too dark. So keep them as subtle as you can. Okay. And same thing with on this side. There's a little bit of the cheek form. And as you notice, I haven't drawn the outside of his head yet. I'm just working from eyes, nose, mouth. And then I will go back and start getting the parameters of the whole outside of the head in place. Little lines on his mouth. So I'm kind of following along with my pencil over here too, with my finger, just to help me keep in mind, okay, where am I? And as I'm moving around this way to get his mustache in place. So down here, there's kind of just like a smudge. And so I'm just going to smudge this a little bit under there. And I never ever want to do this, but I'm going to, I usually have a blending thing. I don't know where it is, but anyway, just a soft little like that. You don't want to do that because A, it's bad draftsmanship, and B, you get oils. You can get oils on there, so you don't really want to do that. But anyway, in a pinch, we do what we can. So let's see. He's got these great curls over here. And then I'm going to start to focus on some of these external. All right, so I think I'm at a place now where I'm going to go through and get the outside parameters of his face. So when I'm teaching these and I'm when I'm teaching this on the Online Art Academy and other times I've done it, I do a little cartoon dog head. That's what I start with. And I do the same exact approach. Eyes, nose, mouth, then the outside points of the head. And so even painting a portrait from life, same process. Got these in place? Now let's go through and figure out how far over everything is. I'm going to use my trusty little scratch paper. Going from the eyes, this side of his face over here, way over here, touches this bone right here, the eye bone socket thing. And I'm looking to see where that goes up, and then it comes down this way. So from there, I'm going to go and not get confused with my other marks. I'm going to start with this passage right here. There's my helper line. And so I'm going to start with the helper line here, right at this cross point where all those lines meet, and then go straight up. I'm going to get it where this bone starts to turn. Okay. Right here. There's my helper line mark. So this line then is going to curve and then curve out. And then start to curve back. Okay, starting to come into place, makes sense. Now let's figure out how far over the cheekbone is from the nose. So coming over here, going to take the cheekbone, farthest point, to the bridge of the nose right there. Coming over here to the bridge of the nose, right there, to the farthest point out from the cheekbone. So we know that this all curves in and then around and down. Oops, that curves in more. Dip that in more. Stay true to your marks. Trust what you did. Okay. It's coming together. All right, so that's about done. Let's figure out how far down. I'm going to go with what's under his chin down here. Okay, so let's go from there, under his chin. Let's say that hits about the corner of his eye up here. So over here, corner of his eye, this is where under his chin's going to go. See, we start backwards over on this side. Eye to chin, because we don't have the chin yet, so we need to figure out where that is. So this comes up a little bit and also comes down for his neck. So I'm going to get this with a little bit darker so you can see what I'm doing here. And then these marvelous curls. And you can see here down here too, it's a little bit more of just a mass of color. So let's get that in place. Another thing too you want to take into account when you're drawing is not start from the bottom and work your way up, because you're going to smear it along the way. So if you can, start from the top and work your way to the bottom. All right. I'm just laying down this value as I see it on this side of his face. Just a little bit. Okay, so now let's figure out how far over the ear is from his eye. I'll get the ear in. I think we're doing okay for time. All right, so the eye, corner of his eye is right there. The side of his head is here, and his earlobe is there. All right, so corner of his eye over here, straight across, edge of his face, earlobe. And that earlobe almost touches the helper line that I drew at the beginning, so it's going to come like this. Getting that ear in the proper place is going to help identify the angle of a head. Okay? So figuring out then, I have this passage in here to work with to get his hair and all that in place. The hair comes out this way. And the top of his ear, if we just draw a line straight across, giving myself another helper line, I see that it cuts his head about there. So that just gives me a general idea, but let's measure. So here's earlobe, top of his ear. I know these things might seem tedious, but in the end, I mean, I've been doing this now for, when I got started a little bit later than what I'd originally wanted, but you know, it doesn't take that long. And this is foundational to learning these things when you are out working, doing plein air or whatever. So here's his earlobe bottom, and the top of his ear is over a little bit from the bottom. So it's going to fill in this passage. Like that. Always looking for straight lines and angles. Just figure out where this ear is real quick. Okay. And the curl inside. I love ears. I love studying ears and all these intricate little curves, and they're just a study unto themselves, aren't they? Alright, so I'm just going to darken some of these values in so we can get this passage in here taken care of. Hope I'm not missing your comments. I'll have to check them afterwards. All right, and then the hat, if I just have to... I'm doing the hat because I want this value behind the ear. "45 degrees. It's okay if it just goes off. Alright, the neck comes under the earlobe like this. Flicking my eye back and forth for that angle. It's graceful, free-flowing lines. Comes up, over, across. All right, about to have some fun here. Okay, now I'm going to jump in and start doing the hairs and the curls and things. I think that the intimidation of everything is over. I'm just wrapping this up. I'm going to still use my darker 3B pencil. Oh, I'm going to erase this helper line because I do not need that or want it in there. These kind of lines always show up inevitably if you don't erase them. And they just don't make sense to have a horizontal line cutting his face, so make sure that they get erased. I'm always double checking to see where and how the lines start to define all of this passage in here. So if you bought our portrait video, some of this might make sense because I show you how to do this in oil paint. Here it's of course in pencil, but the principles are the same. You work from the bones, the basic structure of the eyes, nose, and mouth, measuring out from there, and then you just build it from there on up. A lot of drawing books and courses that I've seen, start with the drawing from the outside. They give you an oval and they tell you to start from there. But I just don't think that we think that way. I think that it makes more logical sense for our minds to start with the eyes. Right, and then there's some very subtle cross-hatching in here. And over here. And then the contours of his forehead and how wonderfully this is all sculpted up in here. I'm seeing this temporal bone and how it curves right at the peak of the eyebrows in here. Right about here, you have the forehead turning and there's a new plane. Okay, so let's get some of that in there. And I'm going to turn my 45 to a little bit more 75 or so, whatever that is. And then over here, level that out a little bit. Up in here. I'm going to reverse direction now. I did a lot of Leonardo da Vinci master copies too, and he's left-handed, so I learned how to do the 45-degree angle the other way too. It's always good practice. Anyway, it's just always this little subtle cross-hatching things. All right, so there's a whole value over here of cross-hatching, so let's get that in place. That comes up. And then this is much darker where his hat's casting a shadow, so I'll get that in place. I'm just going to go outside the lines there too. Curls in over here. I love this whole value on the side of his face here because it really offsets the structure of his face here. And where's that dark spot? It's right here. And that is by no accident either that he put that dark curl right there, because it really sets off everything else. Sorry if I'm missing any questions. I didn't know Leonardo da Vinci was a lefty, yep. In fact, he was very cryptic in his writings too. He would write in his books, and he'd write them backwards, from left to right, and so you had to read them in a mirror. But I've enjoyed reading some of Leonardo's writings over the years. He's very good, very obviously. I mean, I'm thinking about the things he wrote, or wonderful, delightful readings. Obviously, the man was a genius. Oh. Sorry, I'm in my art speak. All right, let's get this wonderful goatee down here. Some of the shading back here. I'm just putting in a few of these sharper accents where I see them, little places where I can press a little harder for some definition, especially around the eyes. It's nice and black. And I haven't forgotten my white pencil. We're going to get to that in a minute here. Sorry if my head's in the way. I'm just darkening around the iris edges a little bit. As such. And over here. Okay, and then the hair in here. I'll just quickly place in some of these curls. I would definitely be taking more time on this, but we're already at about an hour, so I want to make sure that I keep it at about that length. With the Online Art Academy, I will be going longer, because that's something that you can watch at your own leisure. I mean, you can this too, but all right. So these 45-degree lines here are just sort of suggesting the hat and where all of that is going. I think that there's sort of some suggestion up in there. And then there's a little edge that suggests the hat contour over here. All right, so the white, I'm just going to take a little bit of this white and pop it in only where I would see just a little, like on the iris there, here, and maybe on the bridge of the bone of the nose. Right there where it just kind of has a turn. And again, I'm still just doing the cross hatching with these highlights like that. I don't want to put it too much on this side because that's more in shadows, so this is kind of the lit side over here, so I just want to keep my focus over here. Maybe I'll put a little bit in his eye there. I don't like that. Just put a little bit of a tone over that so I can sort of eliminate that. I felt it was distracting, that little highlight there that I just did. Okay, and then a little bit on the cheekbone here. Let's put some on his collar. And some in his beard. Alright, well that pretty much wraps up my video today. I hope that has been helpful. Always make sure that when you sign your name, you put who it was by. So this is Jessica Henry. After Peter Paul Ribbons. There. All right, so that wraps it up. I wanted to thank you guys for joining me. This is always a lot of fun and I really appreciate it. Again, if you want to know more information about the Online Art Academy and also the portrait video, I put the website up above here. Just go to contact and give us your email information, or if you just want to put your email in the comments down below, we can get you information on our portrait video as well as the Online Art Academy, which will be starting very soon. I'm very excited about it. All right, you guys, have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.